Tuesday. It's Tuesday.
I know. Time is just like hauling.
It's going so fast. It's kind of scary. If we're being honest. Yeah, so I'm hoping that they'll be able to do my lights.
They'll do them. It'll get
Right,
done.
we are live.
Perfect.
Okay, let's give it a few minutes.
Oh, I look like a little old lady in my sweater over here today.
You look cute.
Oh, I look like I need to get my life together, but it's Tuesday and I don't do much today.
Me, it's a mess. It really was a whole point of conversation yesterday. Why I cannot seem to get my life together, to get my makeup and hair done on the live on Tuesday. But it's mostly like my school drop off that really, because like by the time that I get down the hill, it's like 8:50.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, like Hayden, when he was in elementary, he didn't have to be to school till 9. So like there would have been no way I could have done our like all this. So I get it. The only reason
I get drop at 8:30 to 8:40 and then
try to fly home.
I have to run down the hill. I mean, listen, I could wake up early and do it earlier, but
we are not early birds.
We are not early birds.
None of them are.
Today, we are going to talk about improving the level of service in our business, which I think is really important for many reasons, to give really, really good service to your clients, but obviously specifically because if you don't serve people well, then you don't get the opportunity to serve them again or anyone else, right? So like I personally think that your level of service directly correlates to the number of referrals that you will receive. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the level of honesty and expectations that you're willing to provide also play a role in referrals.
I totally agree. I think there's always places where we can improve our quality of service. John Pugh, who's like a homeboy, he teaches a whole class on this. That's really amazing. He taught it when we did a class earlier this year. So if anyone wants John Pugh's like segment on creating raving fans and referrals through a really crazy high level of service, we can send that to you. But it's, I mean, think about like experiences where you've had amazing service outside of real estate. Like where have you, like hotels or resorts, or like where have you gone in your life when you've been like, oh my God, this is the best experience I've ever had? Restaurants.
And similarly, think about all the places you've gone where you haven't gotten good service and what they could have done to improve and put that into your own world.
I mean, excellent service. Like when I think about that, I think about like the Ritz-Carlton. I think about Disney. I think about like a nice fancy restaurant, right? And those are all places that like I want to go back to just because the experience was so good. I think that's what we're talking about today specifically. So how do we improve the level of service in our business so that we can turn every single client that we ever have the honor to work with into a raving fan and get all of the referrals, right? That's the question of the day. So my first thing is, before the end of December, spend a couple hours going through every transaction that you had for the whole year and look at every single place that it went wrong, essentially, right? Yeah. So like, I think a really good one to start with is like, where in a transaction did you see your clients get either super emotional or really angry, really sad, really frustrated, really stressed? Because I think that that is like the first natural place to go to start building better service. Because, you know, buying and selling real estate is the most emotional and stressful transaction on planet Earth. And I think a lot of real estate agents, and I hate to say this, but especially men, don't think about how emotional and stressful buying and selling is. And so I think if we look at every single place where basically our clients lost their shit, that's a really good opportunity for us to add some pieces that next time as we go into another transaction will just make people feel amazing. So give us an example, Jess, of a transaction that you had this year where someone got really stressed or really super emotional. What was going on?
So I think for me, the biggest place, and this also comes from personal experience, that people get stressed out in. So here in Colorado, our contracts are completely designed around dates and deadlines. I don't know how it is everywhere else. And so our people get very confused by the dates and deadlines. There's 20 plus of those in a contract to buy and sell. And so when you're looking at the contract, it's very overwhelming and you don't remember what all of these pieces of the puzzle are. So one of the places that I went back through this year and started to hone in on was the actual process of a contract. And so not only do I review the contract with my clients up front, they also get an email, right, outlining next steps, what we're doing, etc. I also started recording a video of myself reviewing the contract with them so that they can go back. You have some people who are readers, you have some people who are visual. So I've hit both people in this space. My friend Haley Bartlett is actually the one who told me that she had started to do this. And so I just ripped off and replicated what Haley was doing because I thought it was an incredible idea. And so if I'm unavailable to answer a contract question for whatever reason, they have a really great expectation email and next steps. And they can also run back and watch my video. And that has really dropped the level of stress in a contract and the amount of questions that I'm dealing with, post execution of the contract. And so that was one place that I felt like was really important. I think anyone who listens to us knows that I'm huge on education and giving people the accountability and responsibility they need to work their way through this. So that was my process for this year, was ensuring that we were all on the same page all the time and there was no mystery surrounding the contract and expectations.
I love that. I was thinking about, so one of the kind of similar that I'm going to start doing is, because I'm doing this audit for my own business for the year. So one of the places that so I think that you can do this two ways. You can look at it two ways. Number one, obviously it helps the level of service that you give to your clients, but then number two, it also helps you not be banging your head against the wall on these. Because if you look at your transactions as a whole, you're going to notice the same patterns, right? So it also helps you to not be banging your head up against the wall with these same patterns every single time. But so I was thinking about when you're working with buyers and how, obviously the markets all across the country are so intense and, you have to work so hard just to help win a house, and the buyer's perception of the situation might be that they're overpaying for this property and they had to pay so much money over list and they had to give all the rights away and all this stuff. And then you get to the inspection and they really panic because they're like, whoa, I just spent not only how much money on this house, but I spent X amount of dollars over list price just to win this house. And then I went into the inspection and it's horrible. And they have a panic attack. And real estate's a really weird balance. It's really weird to balance your clients' emotions because we can't minimize the way that they feel about things because that's rude and nasty. And that's where realtors just want to make a commission. That's where that thing comes from because it doesn't feel like you care authentically about people. But also at the same time, you're talking to people and you're like, a clean and service on a furnace is totally normal. How do we bring the emotion down, right? Whoa, we got
to minimize without maximizing, which is a really hard balance.
Yeah, or you have to minimize without making them feel like you're minimizing them. It's really weird. So I was thinking kind of similarly, and I think I stole the idea from you via Haley, why not, knowing and anticipating that your clients are going to stress through the inspection process? You could use this for anything, appraisal, anything. Why not, film a quick video? And listen, guys, this doesn't have to be like professionally done production. You can shoot it on your iPhone and you can send it to them, and it says basically, here's how the inspection works. This is what the inspector is going to be looking for. It is totally normal for there to be some things, finger quotes, wrong with the property. These are the things that we would consider kind of like normal wrongs with a property. And then these are the things that you should be really concerned or afraid of, like a massive structural issue or black mold or all of these things, so that before they even go into the inspection, they're having some education about what could happen that could go wrong. And they're also getting emotionally prepared for the fact that the house isn't going to be perfect. And I just think that like, that's huge, because that's a major point where people, okay, if you're lucky enough and you have really good relationships with your clients, they will tell you when they're afraid and they will tell you when they're freaking out. If you're not lucky and you aren't building those close relationships with people, you won't even know when they're panicking. And like, I've had that happen. Have you had that happen where you're like, whoa, I talked to you this morning and you were fine. What's going on? So I just think that any place where you can emotionally help or prepare them is going to make their level of service feel much better. Going back to Disney has the best service of any company on planet Earth. Like, even Disney has a sign outside the ride that says this ride has strobe lights that might cause a seizure, or don't ride this ride if you're pregnant, or this ride is really scary, or this ride is really easy. Like, why aren't we preparing people for what they're about to go through?
Well, and I think one of the spots that you and I talked about this, I think earlier this year, was especially on the inspection aspect. We go back through and I can tell my clients, it's costing my sellers on average $1,200 to get through an inspection, right? And when you can articulate to your clients, this is in our area, the things that we see the most, these are the things that we should expect to have to deal with. And this is the expectation of an average price that you should anticipate it's going to cost us to get through inspection. They're already like, okay, cool. Like, I'm planning on spending $1,500 and I know for a fact I'm going to have to do a furnace clean and certification, and I'm going to have to get a roof certification, whatever those things are. But think about that different level of experience that you're providing in that space and how educated and knowledgeable you sound as their agent, and providing them value and really preparing them for what's to come, right? Like, that was one of the coolest things I think we talked about on the phone this year, just between the two of us, that I've started doing. And I know for a fact it has helped my sellers.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's service. And I've done that for years. And selfishly, it's something that I came up with for me, because if I tell them in advance, the average cost to resolve an inspection over the last year in Colorado is $1,800. Then when we get to inspection and it's $1,700, I go, woo, you guys, you just slid right under that average, right? But the service that you're providing when you tell them that is phenomenal. That's fabulous.
I mean, and I just come back to like, gosh, if I were selling a house and my agent was able to say to me, hey guys, it's going to cost about $1,300 on average to get out of an inspection in the market that we find ourselves in. That's just set the expectation for me that it's in my head that I'm going to have to do something to sell my house, right? And we've minimized the drama also of having to go through this negotiation, because you've already set the tone for what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, a level of service that a lot of agents don't provide is honestly just being very candid and giving realistic expectations and being honest with people. And while that can be an extremely difficult conversation to have up front, and like, if you're newer, don't feel bad about not liking that conversation, because I'm 20 years in and sometimes most of the time I still hate it, but you still have to have it, because how many times have you ever been like, going back to like, who provides amazing service? It would suck to take the whole family out for Christmas Eve dinner to a steakhouse that's $100 a plate, and everyone in town has told you that you're going there because the service is amazing and you're going to have the best dinner of your life. And then you sit down at the table and it's horrific. It's the same like bait and switch type of feeling if we don't tell people things honestly and set expectations up front. And then a month later, we're like, yeah, well, none of that shit that I told you to sell you on working with me is actually true.
Well, and it's also the reason I feel like realtors get this rap that we have, and why it's why the general public feels like we're just after a commission, because we're not being honest and transparent about what the expectation actually is. I actually got fired yesterday from a potential buyer who wanted something that doesn't exist in our market, and another agent told her that I was wrong and it does. So now they're going to go look for a house together that doesn't exist. And I'm cool with losing that buyer, because at least I know that I was honest and transparent and candid about the expectations that I was setting for her. And what do you think that looks like now, looking for a house for the next 8, 10, 12 weeks? It doesn't look good for that realtor now, right? So be cool with being honest is the moral of the story.
Let's give some examples of maybe on the seller side where the sellers are going to panic and where you could give value there. So I was thinking about like a lot of clients, and this is why iBuyers like Zillow and Open Door and OfferPad are so popular right now, is a lot of clients, what they're really freaking out about on the seller side is like, how am I going to clean this house? I have 4 little children. How am I going to keep this house clean? You know, what the hell am I going to do on Saturday for 9 hours while I have showings all day long? Like, that's really overwhelming for people. And that's, in my opinion, part of the reason why these iBuyers have been so successful, because they're selling them on, you don't have to do any of that. People are literally, think about this, guys. People are paying for that convenience, essentially. Like, they are giving up in a lot of situations tens of thousands of dollars to not have to deal with that inconvenience. So how can you help them with that emotional objection? I mean, you know, what's to stop you from, you know, Costco has these little movie ticket bundles that come with like 4 movie tickets, and it includes 4 popcorns, and it includes 4 drinks, and it's like substantially discounted from the price of going to the theater. Why wouldn't you send your clients, you know, the week before showing start or the day before showing start, that little package that might have cost you $20 or $50 at Costco, and say, here, you guys go to the movies on me and don't worry about the showings? Or, you know, can you bring in a house cleaner to help them with that? Like, where are places where when they're panicking, you can inject service?
So I offer packages similar to what you're talking about, and it's in my listing presentation. It's based off of tiered commission. And so at each, because let's be real, like, commission's our biggest objection when we meet with a seller. So they get to choose their commission with me, so they're in control, but I'm still in control because I'm showing them what I'm willing to offer at each level. So one of the levels that I offer now is, you know, essentially like a pre-listing, pre-showing package, where included in there is a handyman to come over and help, you know, tighten up the nuts and bolts, you know, caulk sinks, you know, all those little items that maybe come on inspection that we can deal with ahead of time. It includes a pre-showing cleaning, so that way we know that the house is getting ready for showings ahead of time. It includes a staging consultation, where sometimes the stager uses their items, or we even bring in a full stage, just depending. My stager offers a 3D tour and rendering to show them what the house looks like completely staged, which for me has been a game changer. So those are the pieces of the puzzle. I think, you know, you're giving them control, but I'm still in control of the process, but you're offering value for a little bit more money, right? And we're offering something to lighten the load, because I think that we forget how stressful showings are. I'm a firm believer that realtors should have to go through the process of selling a house like every few years, just so we don't lose sight of how difficult this is. And it also helps you tighten up your processes in this space. And so for me, it was like, how can I help you get the house ready and put it in the condition that I expect it to be in for showings, and I'm helping you. Having a handyman come in and tighten up nuts and bolts and do some of those little things, that's going to save everybody some drama on inspection, don't we think? That's a really easy service. And I pay for 2 hours. It's $200. And my handyman comes in and does a list of honeydews that I give him. And it lightens the load for all of us.
And I think like we always try to be really careful on our show because like we were new agents once upon a time, we did not have $200 up front to give to a handyman. I think that you can still do these things maybe in a little bit of a different way. If you are newer, you don't have the budget for that, maybe you're not giving them the package of, movie cards and popcorn. Maybe instead you have a flyer that you've created that has, top 20 things to do in Denver this weekend that you can take the kids to go and do, right? Like, maybe instead of having to pay the handyman up front, you can create an agreement with a great contractor in your market to have that paid at closing, right? So I think that you don't have to get really overwhelmed by like the cost here. There's a lot of ways to still inject service without spending a bunch of money.
Well, and here's the other thing, and I did this very early in my career, was I just had a list. Sometimes people just don't know where to begin. And so just offering the assistance of saying, here's a company in Castle Rock that offers day boarding for your dogs so that you can put them there for showings. Here's a company, here's a handyman, here's all of these people. Just helping them figure out who can help them is huge in value. And at my different commission levels, that's one of the things that we offer, right? Like rather than me paying for it, here's the list and here's all the things, and you can go do it and contract it yourself.
Tiered commissions are super cool, and we should do a whole episode on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, tiered commissions have been the game changer for me, so that would be awesome.
I think we should do a whole episode on that. Okay, so our first step to take every client you have and turning them into raving fans and referrals was go through every transaction you've had over the last year in 2021 and identify every pain point. So every place where you saw your clients get stressed, get emotional, get angry, get sad, get whatever it is, and figure out how to add some service in there to make them feel less of those feelings, right? Either taking the fear away by education or, just like, oh my God, you just lost your 37th offer. Let me send you some flowers, right? Whatever it is, right? So how to emotionally handhold your people a little bit, that's going to be the difference that separates you from Zillow. Zillow they will never be able, a computer cannot feel someone's feelings and make them feel better. And that's what we can do. That's how we protect our business against technology, right? Is being more human. So that was step number one. If you're new and you haven't done a deal yet, how can you figure that out? I would recommend going to your mentor, you can message one of us, go to someone in your office and just ask them, hey, where were the places in your transactions where you saw emotional breakdown happening? And you can work off of that. I guarantee you will see the same patterns. And then that becomes a system, by the way, so that you can just do this easily and brainlessly every time.
So real quick to touch on showings for just a quick second. So that was something, especially this year with the market, that we found ourselves in nationwide, where your buyers are potentially looking at 15, 20 houses. We're out grinding every weekend. So one of the places that I buttoned up this year was my clients with kids, right? Like that's a rough thing to go drag kids from house to house. So I went to the dollar store and I have a bucket and it's filled with crayons and coloring books. I also created, I have clipboards that I keep in the car with the kids, and it has a kid house hunting checklist, and the kids get to mark off all the different things that they're looking for in a house and help make the decision. Similarly, on the listing side, how do we get the kids engaged? I have them sign a contract with me. They have their own listing agreement with me that we sign together, just like their parents do. And in there it says, I agree to keep my room clean. I agree to help my mom and dad turn on all the lights for showings. I agree to help clean up dog poop. Whatever they are capable of doing at whatever age, they get a listing agreement specifically designed for them. They're engaged. And then at closing, the kids get a gift card to go to Target or Walmart or Amazon, and they get to pick out something for their new room that they're going to buy. And so again, it acknowledges that you are working with a family and that you want to bring these children along too for the ride and get their buy-in too. I'll tell you what, like some of my biggest fans are the babies. They're my, like they want to FaceTime me now. And one of them calls me the brownie house. We don't know why, but I'm the brownie house, right? Like the kids are my favorite. And so when you bring them along for the ride, it shows the families that you really care about them as a whole and not just as a transaction. And I think that's really important to do.
I love that so much. If you guys want Jess's kids contract, comment or PM, and we will get you something. Okay. So next thing on the list is we're going to talk about sphere of influence, right? Like, what does that actually mean? Sphere of influence. What does it mean to have a sphere? And what should you be doing with your sphere? You know what's so funny? So I have seen, yes, Jennifer, we will get that for you. So I have seen so many men. This is hilarious to me. In the last, I would say just a couple of weeks, we were on a text thread with one yesterday where he literally was like, oh, light bulb. I'm going to focus on referral business. Which is so funny to me because like, I feel like women have organically done this really, really well for a long time. We can still do better, but we've done it really well for a long time. But like the biggest thing about sphere of influence is that like, you don't get the right, you haven't earned the right to influence people if you aren't in their sphere. Like that's the number one thing. And this is where agents go horribly wrong. Like you can't just call up like Hannah from high school and be like, yo, Hannah, I haven't talked to you in 20 years, but will you buy a house with me this year? I saw that on Facebook, you are thinking about buying your first home. It doesn't work that way. In order to be able to influence people, you have to be like authentically and organically in their lives. So I would say the next thing is coming up with a plan for building authentic relationships with people. And people get really overwhelmed here, right? It seems like a lot of work. It seems like a lot of talking. How do you go back to like high school Hannah that you haven't talked to in 15 years and build that relationship with her? People get very overwhelmed here. But I think, number one, you need a database in some way, some form as you go into 2022. If you haven't had one before, and I don't care if that's Facebook. I don't care if that's an Excel spreadsheet. I don't care if it's like some fancy CRM. It doesn't really matter, a pen and a piece of paper. It doesn't matter where you keep it, but you need to have a list of the people in your sphere so that you can call on them and send them things and do things with them. Like if you don't even know who's in your sphere, how do you build a system to work with your sphere? Doesn't make any sense. So I think for 2022, everyone should make sure that they have a database or a list of people who are in their sphere. And then they need to make a plan for next year of touch points and things that they're going to do to touch their sphere. And, it should be multi-pronged. You should be engaging with those people on social media. You should be engaging with those people in real life, ideally face-to-face or over the telephone. And you should be sending them things every month. And then if you do that, then you earn the right to influence people because they're actually your sphere. Otherwise, you're just cold calling people you know.
Which almost feels worse, right? Than like just a random cold call. I mean, like I got a friend request the other day from someone in the neighborhood who I knew. And what was the first thing you think she did? She sent me a message letting me know that she's a part of this really great MLM now. And I was completely turned off. Like if you're turned off by it, someone else is going to be turned off by it. Don't be that person.
I mean, I have had moments like, especially early on in my career where and later in my career, like even to this day, that's how I know if I'm doing stuff right or not with my sphere. You know, like in Bold, where they're like, bring a list of everyone you know and sit down and call them. I liked the day in Bold where we called the yellow pages more than I liked that day in the beginning, because like at least the people in the yellow pages aren't going to be like, hey, homie, I haven't heard from you in 15 years. You completely missed the fact that my mom died or my dog died or I've had 3 kids. Like, you know nothing about me. Like, at least the business in the yellow pages or the person in the yellow pages doesn't have that on me. It's really scary and overwhelming to call your sphere if you don't know who the hell they are and they don't know who you are. Like, really scary.
I think one of the easiest things that I've done in the last few years is I just buy bulk cards off of Amazon for like $30, and there's probably 100 in there, and they're all different things. They're graduation cards, I'm sorry cards. And then I have a group of cards that are like funny, dirty adult cards that are like, adulting is really fucking hard, thinking of you today. So like if you're on social media and you see that your client's cat just died, you have a card, pop it in the mail. I'm really sorry to hear about your cat. Here's a $5 gift card to Starbucks. I hope your day is better. Whatever. Like, cards are such an easy, fast, personal way of showing that like you are aware of what's going on in everyone's world around you.
I love cards. I am the queen of cards. Like, I spend so much money on cards. It's ridiculous. But tip, when I first started in real estate, I always knew, like, I love handwriting things. I love to receive them too. I always knew I wanted to do that, but I did not have the money to buy the Hallmark cards for $4, $5 a card. Cards are so expensive. The dollar store, you can buy really, really great greeting cards for $1 a pop.
2 for $1. They're actually 2 for $1. So yeah, even better.
There you go. They're fabulous. So the sphere thing, you know, come up with a plan for next year. If you get overwhelmed by this, we had an episode on our show with Garrett Maroon, who's amazing, who is a man and does sphere like one of the best ways I've ever seen in my whole life. But he has a whole system where he breaks it up into quarters. And so basically quarter 1, everyone in the sphere gets this. Quarter 2, everyone in the sphere gets this. Quarter 3, quarter 4. But it's meant to not. Okay, so I think another place that we get overwhelmed with this is like, these people are going to be so sick of me. They don't want to see me this much, right? Like, I can't possibly bother everyone. So Garrett's system is really good for breaking it up so that you're not like driving them nuts, because there is a fine line between taking care of people and making them psychotic. So his system's really good for that. You can go and listen to Garrett's episode on our show. And then he even runs a group called Business by Referral that's like $50 a month. And he gives you all his templates and all his pop buys. And it's pretty incredible. So I would encourage you guys to dig into that. But I definitely think whether it's starting a sphere referral program or growing it, wherever you're at, that should be a big focus for next year. Okay, next, become totally irreplaceable in their lives. This is a blessing and a curse, I will tell you that. But it's a big time blessing. So you need to be the person that your clients go to for everything. You need to be the girl that has the electrician, the plumber, that knows the best restaurant in town for date night, that knows the best daycare in their new neighborhood for their one psychotic boy child who can't sit still. You need to know, you need to know, like who the best person to go buy a car from is. You need to know the best of the best of the best for everything in your little area so that you become completely indispensable to people. And they think naturally, every time I need help with something, oh, I'm going to call Jess. She will know what to do. She'll know who to send me to. And then naturally out of that, over a period of time, becomes like, well, I want to buy or sell a house. Obviously, Jess knows what to do with that too, right?
I mean, if I had $1 for every time somebody made a comment of like, you know everybody, you know everything, that's why I'm calling you. That's what you want. And again, it is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing more than it is the curse, but sometimes it can be like Now I got to figure out who this person is.
Well, for me, it can get overwhelming because like the amount of those calls and text messages that I receive on like a weekly basis, like it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Right. So like if you're doing other things, that's a lot. Now, the one place that I think that you can make it blessing and not blessing and a curse is by systematizing it. So Homekeeper is this really, really cool tool that it creates a website for you that's branded to you with your name and your logo, your face. And it also creates an app, that you can send to people. And it's basically your database of all the people. And they have to be your client to get that from you, but it's really slick and it looks really good. And so I think that's how you make it feel less of a curse, is that you send everyone your Homekeeper and then you just remind them to go and look there periodically. So that's really cool. Homekeeper also sends out touch points. So like they'll send out a message through the app, like a little notification in the app, or they'll send an email if you have them registered on the website that might say something like, oh, it's September, change all your smoke alarm batteries, or like, oh, it's November, we're about to hit heavy winter, have your furnace serviced and cleaned. By the way, here's who I recommend for cleaning and service your furnace. But I mean, you should know everything. Like I have gained clients so many times in my careers off of like knowing the guy who hangs Christmas lights the best in my neighborhood, right? I mean, most people don't come in contact on a daily basis or a weekly basis with like as many people as we do. We know everyone. We're the connectors. So we really should leverage that with our clients.
And also make sure the people you were referring are genuinely good people. I made the mistake of not completely vetting someone that I had referred at one point. Come to find out halfway through this massive project that they were doing for clients of mine, he wasn't licensed or insured. And I trusted my friend who referred him to me. It was her husband. And it ended up being a really big issue. And I'm still mortified that this happened. And so now I've changed my vetting process and the way that I refer people. So please don't make the mistake that I did, which is giving someone out just based on someone else's word. Only give out people that you genuinely have vetted one way or the other.
Yeah. And also like, this gives you the right to move into other spaces too, once you make those connections with people, which is perhaps partnering with some of your vendor partners on marketing or different ways to inject financial support into your business so that you can go out, right, and hunt for more clients or deliver better service to your clients. But I mean, ideally you have relationships with these people and you know who they are and you know their level of service, because that is truly, Jess, you're 100% correct, like the most mortifying thing.
Oh my gosh, they're not even mad at me. And I still, like, the amount of Jewish guilt I still have over this is wild, you guys. And like, it was a huge mistake on my part. And I think it's just as important to share where we failed as where we've succeeded. This is something that I really, really failed in. And I just want to be really candid about that it changed my entire process for how I refer now.
What is your process now?
So if I haven't personally worked with them, even the people that I've personally worked with, I verify that they're licensed. I have asked for copies of insurance, especially a lot of them are working on my personal flip house right now. So we needed to make sure that everyone was good. And then I also, if I haven't personally used them, I want at least 3 recommendations from other people who have used them before I'll add them to my vendor list. I mean, we get asked constantly, can I be added to your list? And the answer is not always yes. The answer is you have to be in the upper echelon of contractors that I would want my amazing clients and sphere of influence to want to work with as well. So that's been the biggest change for me, is like, I'm actually verifying that they're licensed.
Important. I mean, like, okay, so last year I had an inspector drop a pole through the roof of a property, crazy ass story, and almost kill a buyer during an inspection. Jess had one where an inspector broke a seller's, not her sellers, she was there for an inspection with her buyers. Dude broke the seller's garage door, right? Like, I mean, you do need to vet
and
these
again, this is where Jessica has amnesia because I don't remember any of this because once we're done, I'm like done.
Okay, well, homeboy broke your.
I remember now, but I wouldn't
He
remember
broke
that
the
anyway.
garage door on not your client's house, and then you had to deal with that. So
I know exactly what happened.
you need to make sure that your contractors are really, really good. I want to bring up something kind of funny. I'm not sure that everyone cares about this as much as Jess and I do, because like we are freaks about making sure that we're legally compliant with things, but I thought this was interesting. So you know that the rule, I hope you guys know, that the rule is, you know, when you're recommending like a partner or a service, you're supposed to recommend 3, right? So if you're recommending a mortgage lender, you're supposed to recommend 3. If you're recommending an inspector, you're supposed to recommend 3 because that takes essentially the liability off of you and puts it on the client. They had a list of preferred names that they could choose to work with. Listen, guys, like most of us don't do that on a practical basis. I think we do it sometimes. It depends on the situation. We all know who we like to work with. But I asked this question of an attorney recently in the last couple of weeks because I had this really nasty situation happening with a client of mine who purchased a property where the seller hid a massive structural defect. Like he put 20 wall anchors in the basement and drywalled over the top of it, did not disclose it any way, any shape. It was really bad. And so I had to consult with my attorney before my client goes into suing the seller, just to make sure that I was safe, right? This had nothing to do with me, but just to make sure that I was safe and really in making sure that like I wasn't telling my client, go sue this guy and you have a case, right? So the very first thing that the attorney said to me was, well, did you recommend 3 inspectors? And so, you know, I did, but I did ask him because as you get to a certain level of production or success in your business, this thing about always knowing who to call becomes legitimately 1000% a reason why people will hire you. Like I have literally been at the listing presentation at someone's table in their home and they will choose me. Like if Jess and I were going head to head and they are overwhelmed by the fact that they're going to have to do some pre-market work and they're going to have to do some inspection items, they will choose me, who says I have a whole stable of contractors that I will bring in to help you with things, over Jess, who says we'll figure it out, right? So people really, truly, one of the reasons that they put value on hiring a real estate agent is their army of people that they bring along to help. Not everyone knows an electrician and a plumber and a sewer line guy and all these things. So that's a very, especially for sellers, massive reason why a seller would hire you over someone else. And so I had said to my attorney, I guess I'm a little concerned because I recommended 3 inspectors to this guy, but then I don't do that in like a lot of places. Like I have 2 weeks ago, I had a client call me at 2 a.m. and say that their sewer line exploded and backed up into their house and poop was flying out of the toilet and they were in an emergency and they needed help at 2 a.m. I'm not sending my client a list of 3 sewer line contractors to call, right? And the attorney's response was, you don't have to do that, right? So what they want you to be careful about giving multiple options to someone for is something that could be perceived as a benefit to you as the real estate agent. So that's the reason why, you want to try to refer 3 lenders, because they want to make sure that you're not getting something from one of those lenders. And same thing with the inspectors. But when it comes to like, oh, I'm recommending a plumber, I'm recommending an electrician, you don't need to have 3 electricians or 3 plumbers or 3 daycares inside of your HomeKeeper app. So again, not sure how many other people care about that, but we are psychos about making sure that we're legally compliant, and rightly so, because we've seen some really weird shit happen over the last couple of years, and this stuff is getting scary.
Well, and it also puts you on a system, right? Like systems are what saves our ass when we're in a situation where something goes really sideways, and when we can send them the templated email, our attorneys, that we send to every single client. It shows a process and a system, and it helps keep us out of trouble.
Correct.
I think that's the biggest piece of, excuse me, systems that people forget. Systems keep you out of trouble in all of the ways.
Correct. And yeah, I mean, we've seen also, like, not us, but we've had friends and we've seen experiences over the last couple of years where people, they make really bad decisions. Like, not just like dude breaking the seller's garage door by accident, but like really bad, like coming in and doing inspection work that wasn't permitted, that they didn't do the right way, like really bad. And then the agent ends up getting sued. So to go to Jess's point, I do think it's super important that you vet your contractor. And honestly, like, that's how you sell that to your clients. Like, I've put these people through the paces. Don't just call up homeboy electrician from the yellow pages or that someone shouts out on Facebook. Like, I have physically seen this guy's work. I've worked with him before. I know that he's licensed and insured. I know he does good work. He's not going to fuck your stuff up. Like, that's a big reason why your clients should want your list. And that's how I sell it to people. Hey, I have a vendor list that has everything on it that you could ever want. It's like a secret. It's amazing people. They're the best. I know that, you know, I've price shopped them. They do the absolute best work for as cheap as we can possibly get. Don't call that other painter or that other whoever. Anything else that we can add about ways that you can audit your business and add service for next year?
I think another area that we forget, and I'm going through this currently, is one of my biggest things is people always want to know what's the best way to maintain their home. How easy is it to pop on to Facebook and say, hey guys, here in Colorado, it's heading into the winter months and snow. Walk into your garage and make sure that there's no cracks in your concrete. And here's a product that we use to seal up cracks in the concrete so that snow doesn't get in there and make them worse. And now we have a bigger problem next year. There's a link in the comments. Man, that's like a real easy value add, right? You know, hey guys, it's May and we're coming into the summer months. Here's a couple things that you can do to quickly get your house ready to go. Or, you know, I have it set up on a system, like my clients who purchased 3 years ago probably should do a sewer scope right now or a hydroflush. Send them a quick email. Hey guys, we're coming up on the 3-year mark. When we did your inspection, your inspector recommended that you guys do a sewer check every 3 to 5 years. Just want to give you guys a reminder that we're coming up on that anniversary. These are really easy things that people genuinely forget about. And like, how great does it look that you as their agent are reminding them, hey guys, remember when the inspector said, or hey guys, it's time for home maintenance tips for the week. Like, you're protecting their investment. I always say to my clients, it's your job to be emotional. It's my job to protect you. This is part of protecting them, is staying in contact with them post-closing to make sure that they're protecting their investment that you help them buy.
I love that. I mean, maybe this could even be a whole like 5th point, which could be like, if you haven't been through enough transactions to know, maybe just sit down for an hour or two at a table with a pen and a pad and think about anything in your own home that's ever caused you a problem, or anything in your own house that you've ever had an issue with, and then come up with maybe like once a month or once a quarter or whatever, however often you decide to do it, a tip on how to maintain your furnace, or a tip on how to clean your floors, or a tip on, you know, whatever, like change your furnace filter, change your refrigerator filter, like anything that they could know. That's a huge service add, especially for people that work with a lot of like first-time home buyers who don't know shit about fuck. We love them, but then we turn around to sell their house in 4 years and we're like, what have you done?
And that's exactly what it comes down to, right? Like, the hope is that you have continued to stay in contact with them and earn their trust. And so when they go to sell again, you can go, oh my gosh, you guys listened to me. Oh my gosh, you guys maintained your furnace. Oh my gosh, you guys, so wonderful. Like, how great does that make you look for the rest of time? I mean, no other realtor is going to be able to touch that referral. If they're like, listen, just messaged me 5 years after we closed to remind me that it's time to get my sewer line like, who does that? The answer is nobody. That is
one of my very favorites is if you ever work with new construction clients, set a reminder like 10 months after they purchase and remind them to do an inspection before their 1-year warranty expires and a sewer scope. But like, think about, I've actually never thought about like, what's all the stuff that happens in the first year that you're in a new house?
Or how about like my new build clients? I send them an entire shopping list, a Home Depot shopping list of like, builders here don't seal your grout. So you need to go get grout sealer. You're living in a new build community. You should probably get mouse traps. I literally send them a shopping list to go to Home Depot to maintain their new home. And then I buy them a little grease board for their fridge so that they can make notes on there for what they need to discuss with warranty. And then I have a reminder set up that their 3-month check is coming. I just want to check in with you guys to make sure that you don't have any questions for me prior to your warranty check happening.
I'm
how
obsessed
does
with
that look?
I'm obsessed with that. If you want that, her template for that, please.
Oh, I have an entire shopping list. And the cool part about that is
I'm going up in the DMs.
Stuff I should add to it. So it would help me if someone else looked at it.
I'm obsessed with it. That's the greatest. But yeah, no, I love that idea of what are all the things that maybe happen? Okay, so first of all, like in any given year, what are all the things that you need to know to do as a homeowner? Yeah, Ashley says mind blown. Also mind blown. See, this is why we do this show, you guys.
How do you not know that I do that? That's hilarious that you don't know this, Lindsay.
No, I think this is why Jessica and I are uniquely qualified for this show, because we have lists and systems and processes out the fucking ass that no one on earth would ever think of.
I think that if everyone knew what genuine dorks you and I are, they would be mind blown.
I think that's true. But listen, it's why we are top producers, finger quotes, which is the grossest term of life, but true. Yeah, no, I love that. So go through your own house. Where have you ever had problems? Figure out a way to help people learn how to deal with that. And then go through like seasonally for the year, what's going on and what you can help them do. Now, obviously that's going to be different all across the country. We prepare for winter a lot here. How do they prepare for winter? How do they prepare for summer? Even just thinking about like anything that you've ever Googled about how to deal with, like, okay, this year, my plants in my front yard, like it was like someone put crack in my soil and they grew so fucking big, you guys. Like they were like Little Shop of Horrors eating the entire neighborhood. And I didn't know what to do with them. Like, can you just trim them? Do you have to wait until they're dead? Like, what do you do? Like little stuff like that, like how to prepare your yard for springtime or summertime, I think is invaluable information to continue sending to people.
I was actually just going to post my email in our comments, but I'm in Facebook jail, so I can't. So I'll send it to Lindsay to put into our comments today.
Love it. That was fun.
Well, if anybody has any really great ideas that you're using, like, drop it in the comments too, because we can all learn from each other. And maybe you're doing something really, really badass that we're not, and that we would want to implement in our own business. Like, that's the best part about this. Like, if we all work together to create really badass systems, like what a badass world we could create and change the narrative of who real estate agents are. Like, that's my entire goal, is to make it so people stop feeling like we're shitbags and like we're here to genuinely help you and make your life better.
I'm telling you, this is where no one can steal your business from you. Like the amount of times that I've had people, whether real estate agents or outside of the business, ask me over the years, aren't you terrified that Zillow is going to take away your business, or whoever is going to? No, the answer for me is no. I don't even have to think about it, because you will never steal my people, because of the amount of like authentic connection that I have with them and the amount of value that I give them. That will never happen. No robot on planet Earth can be there in the trenches with them when they're struggling and give them the amount of information that we give them. And that's, I think if you just really lean into those being places where you can increase the wow factor for people, you will be unstoppable. Like, who isn't going to refer? And I mean, when I go to dinner at that amazing steakhouse and it's so good, I tell everyone I know, you guys got to go eat at this place. It was freaking phenomenal. The server did this. Like, I had this, you're going to tell everyone. So I think you just keep focusing on adding a little bit more wow factor every year to your business and you will be unstoppable.
And I'm going to go actually back through all of my stuff because I've been really lax the last 2 years with the way the world has been. And I'll admit it. Like, if I have clients listening right now, they're probably like, this bitch. Because I've been really bad. So I need to go back through and really tighten up my processes again for 2022.
Okay, Jennifer, and it's annoying. I can't read your whole comment when it's up on the screen, but Jennifer Rose says, I provide clients a binder at closing with sections for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, all the things. I include a copy of the inspection report and appraisal, encourage them to keep copies of all work orders, receipts, paint colors, etc. while they own the home. When they are ready to sell, due diligence documents are ready and buyers feel more comfortable that the home has been maintained. I include a business card with the binder and a space for other business cards for them to track those too. That is brilliant, Jennifer. I love that.
It's a badass system. Absolutely.
I love that. And listen, guys, we are in like the weirdest part of the whole year. We're in the part of the year where we naturally want to rest and take time. And that's great. We totally advocate for that here. HOMEgirls, totally. That's a thing that we think is super important. However, that lull is the one time typically in your entire business in which you can make an actual impact on your systems. And this is a phenomenal time to do this. You can go on Amazon today and order, if you think you're going to do 20 transactions next year, get 20 1-inch binders and print out everything that you need to for the whole year. For Jennifer's binder, put it all together, and then you just print their inspection report and include it when you get that, right? So like, put your systems in place in December now so that you're rocking with them next year. Because listen, path to hell is paved with good intentions, and that happens to every single one of us. Pretty soon, April's going to be here, and you're going to be like, man, I was going to increase my wow factor, but I don't have time because I'm crazy. So now's the time to do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we would love to hear anything else that you guys are doing. And I also just want to say, you guys have been so fun hanging out with us on Facebook and Instagram lately. We love you guys. Thanks for interacting with us. It's been really fun the last couple weeks. So we will see you next Tuesday. Mwah.